Good morning from the Belgrade Waterfront. We have finally made it down to the waterfront here. As you can see behind me, it is still being built. There are buildings that have already been completed, but we're going to check it out. We're going to give you our thoughts on the future for Belgrade as sort of a tourist looking in perspective. Really quite impressed though. There's some of the buildings have already been completed. I think it's going to be really interesting to come back here in a couple of years to see what it looks like. But yeah, there's some impressive buildings being built. So we're walking towards the Galleria Belgrade, which is by far the biggest shopping centre, not only in Belgrade, but in all of Serbia. And since really the breakup of Yugoslavia, there's been a lot of shopping malls added, especially over the last 10 to 15 years. So Serbia, as well as Belgrade, is getting a really modern look. Really looking forward to going inside as well. I really think Belgrade's got a bright future ahead, to be honest. I know I've heard some controversial points, I suppose, being made about the waterfront. You know, some people don't like that modern look, but at least from a tourist perspective, I think it's going to drive in a lot more tourism. I'm assuming a lot of these apartments are going to be for people living here, maybe moving into Belgrade from other parts of the country or around Europe. But some really beautiful apartments. I'm sure they are very pricey, but this is the shopping centre here. One of the really great things about this shopping centre is that you can actually come outside onto the balconies on any of the 3 levels and get a great view of Belgrade and the Sava River, which just runs along here. What I've also noticed is you can actually see the Ušće Towers there, which is one of the first videos we did when we came to Belgrade. And attached to those towers is the shopping centre. But over here we have the Belgrade Tower, which is still being built. And then, of course, pretty much next to it is the Galleria shopping centre. So seems like you have these buildings in Belgrade, which are the centerpiece, just like those 2 over there, and then you've got a shopping center, which, by the way, both of them state of the art. This one is probably twice the size of the Ušće shopping center, but just really incredible. I'm a big fan of this shopping center.
We're still at the shopping centre here. We've just had some lunch. This shopping centre is so big. It's actually got street signs, so you can kind of navigate around the shopping centre. There's so many activities going on here. There's a foosball competition, there's FIFA and all the PlayStation games, and there's also computer game competitions as well. So it is a Saturday today, but there's just so much going on. Now the other thing is, because it is so new, there are still a few empty shops, but they have the signs to show what shops will be going in there, like the Macca's is getting built and stuff like that. So because it's so new, there's lots of shops that are empty still, but it's going to fill up pretty quickly. So at the moment we're sitting in the food hall, and there are actually only about 3 places you can eat. So there's still a lot to build in here. There's a lot of shops that need to be added, but at the moment it's a pretty good sitting area.
Just to share, I suppose, my thoughts on everything down by the waterfront, it sort of made me laugh when I first saw it, because this is probably, since the 9 or 10 months we've been away, this is the first time I've really been able to relate something to Melbourne, which is where we're from. And we had a place, well, we have a place called the Docklands, which was very similar to this, sort of down by the waterfront, a little bit away from the CBD or the city centre. And it just didn't work out. They tried to do everything like this. They tried to build these really incredible buildings, lots of apartment buildings as well. And it's been 10 years and nothing really took off. Lots of shops, really a ghost town. And I can tell you from, you know, everyone, whether it's high school friends or work colleagues, and both of us, no one's ever said, let's go down to the Docklands and hang out on a Saturday. Whereas here it actually seems to be taking off a little bit. So I'm not sure how full the apartments are going to be. That was one of the real downsides to the Melbourne docklands. So it'll be interesting to see with the waterfront when we come back in a few years how this is all sort of taken off. I mean, this is a very impressive building. But just recently we had it was a Ferris wheel, they called it an observation wheel, called the Melbourne Star. And it looked out onto all the water like this in Melbourne. But it just recently closed down for good. It was breaking a lot. It just didn't work out. So it's always very interesting because there is another side to this where some of the locals aren't too happy about, them building all of this, which we will get into. One of the reasons I make this comparison to Melbourne and the docklands is that Melbourne's very similar because we have a lot of big shopping centres sort of on the outskirts of the city as well. And it seems like Serbia is the same. There's a lot of shopping centres that we can't really get to from here. There are some in the city centre, of course. So a lot of people like to hang out just at the shopping centres rather than coming into a place like this. But this shopping centre is very impressive. There's a lot to see and do. It's only going to get better as the years go by. I think this is going to really draw some tourists in. I think a lot of countries that are post-communist really sort of have that negative stereotype, I suppose, and it can really take decades or generations even to sort of sway that stigma away and to make, I suppose, foreigners look at the country through a different eye. And I think having a lot of modern shopping centres, a lot of new apartment buildings will actually encourage people from the West and other places in Europe. And I assume as well, a lot of people around Serbia move to Belgrade as well for more opportunity and jobs. So it's going to be really interesting because this could really put Belgrade on the map. I've been really impressed with Belgrade, completely safe, very high English level. And in terms of if foreigners are watching this, I would highly recommend spending some time in Belgrade. There's so much to see and do. So if any foreigners are watching this, anyone from the West, other European countries, Belgrade is really a city that you will want to check out.
Yeah, I think the thing about this place is there is just so much being built here. Like, you don't really understand until we walk through it all, and there's just so many new buildings being built. So I think they'll all finish at kind of the same time. So it's just going to be in a couple years, just massive. And it's not too far from the actual city centre. We walked here from there. It was only about a K, so it's close enough to walk and look at this side as well as the older side. So I think it's going to really take off and be a place to come check out.
Just going off what Hannah said, even a little bit further away from the waterfront, there's some big buildings being built. So it's not just right on the Sava River here. It's actually just pushing out a little bit. And of course, most of Belgrade does have that sort of old communist building style. So we'll see how it all goes. There's some new bridges that have gone up recently as well, which are quite impressive. And yeah, I think Belgrade's got a bright future ahead.
Same.
Now, on the other hand, some people in Belgrade do not like the waterfront, and there are a few different reasons why. The main one that I've heard being is just sort of messing a little bit with the skyline, I suppose. A lot of new, shiny, modern buildings is a little bit different to how the rest of Belgrade looks. Now, this is actually something I learnt when I was living in Edinburgh in Scotland. Now, as an Australian, I just think, everything new and shiny, build it all up. But a lot of people just like the traditional skyline. There are other things, there are political factors as well, which I really don't want to get into because I don't really have the information on me. I can just really only go off what a few people have said. A lot of foreign investment as well here is what some people don't like about it, but I think you need to have foreign investment for, to boost your city and put it on the map a little bit more. A lot of cities around Europe are going like this and becoming a little bit more popular. So as I said, I think it's going to be really interesting to see how the next couple of years go for Belgrade. I think a lot of people, if you come visit Belgrade, will actually be shocked at just how nice and safe and clean it is. It's a lot nicer and cleaner than most sort of EU countries or Central Europe and Western Europe as well. So the Balkans, very nice area. Serbia, very nice country. And Belgrade, a very nice city. I don't think we'll be moving here anytime soon because it's next to the Sava River and Hannah is absolutely freezing.
No.
No snow yet. So I think we've just found the nicest building in Belgrade, or apartment complex anyway. And that is this building here. Hannah says it looks a little bit like stairs. I think it looks more of a U-shaped building. The horseshoe building maybe, I'm not sure. But it would be really interesting to know how much some of these buildings are worth, or at least the apartments are worth. In this side of the world, or in this part of the world, they seem to do it by square meter, how much per square meter. So I wouldn't even be able to estimate how much one of the apartments in here goes for. But yeah, I don't think this is really going to be the affordable housing side of town, which is, I suppose, another con that some of the locals won't like about this. But for a tourist looking in, pretty impressive, I must say.
The other really cool thing about this area is everything is just so clean. They've got gardeners, they've got street cleaners constantly going through, so everywhere along where you're walking past all the big buildings going up, it's just so clean and tidy. There's no rubbish anywhere, and it's actually a really nice walking track as well. They have the bike lanes you can ride along, so really nice area, and excited to see what it's going to look like in the future.
Things worth mentioning is that the apartments over here are right next to the central bus station. So that means from your apartments here, or maybe an Airbnb, hopefully they're building hotels here, you're right next to the central bus station, so you can get all around Serbia. You can get to other countries. There's so many countries that surround Serbia as well. So it could be a really cool location if, you know, someone wanted to live here for 6 to 12 months. Pretty sure the visas are very easy to come by here, at least compared to some of the other countries in Europe and around the world. But yeah, really great location.
Hope you learned something from today's video and you enjoyed this type of video. Belgrade has a very bright future ahead of it, and we are excited to come back and check its progress in the next couple of years.